right, hey, thanks, y'all. Guess what? You couldn't stop me. It was a matter of time before I brought identity into this conversation. I know. There's Joey and his identity stuff. But hey, I've got my buddy, Levent Besik, Vice President, Identity and Network Access Product Management. How are you, my friend?
I've been great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Great
Identity.
Oh, boy.
Developers.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of developers out there are like, I don't know about this identity thing. Why do I really need to care about this? And I know, because you're talking about security. We talked about this yesterday, particularly in the keynote, where it's a team sport. Everybody's got to get involved, right? Developer friends. So let's talk about developers and identity and what we hear.
Let's do that. So look, the number one thing I hear from developers about identity is that it is hard. It's complicated. You know, no one wakes up in the morning excited to say, oh, I'm going to add authorization to my app today, right? Or authentication to my app today.
Why not?
So, I know, right? But it's such a critical piece to get right. Because for two reasons, right? A, obviously it's your first layer of security, often the only layer, right? And it's often the most tested part, right? We get, I think now around 4,000 password attacks a second, right?
I'm sorry, 4,000 a second.
4,000 a second. That adds up to billions, right? Over like a longer period of time, like a month or something. I mean, it's just keep rising, right? It's getting cheaper and cheaper to those attacks, unfortunately, and it's just gonna keep increasing. So you got to have your defenses up. But this, you know, and then 80% of all breaches, in some shape and form, you know, leverage identity layer, right? So it's really important to get this right from a security of your environment and security of your customer's perspective. But the second reason, and it's more obvious, is authentication is your really first impression for your users into your application. Right? When you sign up or when you sign in, it's the first thing that your users see. So if you're brand conscious, you know, app, for instance, your branding, your customization, that experience is important. It impacts your conversion rates. If it's bumpy, the retention rate will drop, right? So it's really important to get it right for developers, and it's just not easy, you know.
So you mentioned some of these concerns, and obviously, you know, with that retention, it's the first exposure, right, that you could potentially have with customers, whether it be internal, even external customers, and you don't want to have that thing. So how are you and your team and us at Microsoft addressing concerns when it comes to integrating good identity, proper identity into external-facing applications?
Oh, it's never been important than ever. So we had an existing product in this space called Azure AD B2C. Great product, serves our complex use cases for our enterprise customers really well. But number one feedback we heard from our developer friends was that it's just not developer friendly, right? It takes hours on the paper, but really days, sometimes weeks to get it up and running, deploying it, right? It's just not easy to configure and test it in the production environment. So that was one key feedback we heard. But the other interesting thing about this product was that it was built on a separate platform. So if you're building for end users, you have to go on a platform stack. And if you're building for your employees or your partner access use cases for your application, you go to another stack. So it's just like, you know, like that switching cost just wasn't easy, and back and forth. And then, of course, innovation velocity, right? We have two platforms. You know, there's a lot of innovation happening on identity space, right, with adaptive access controls and verifiable credentials, and it's hard to kind of like, you know, get both of the platforms up to speed on both sides. So what we did was, about 2 years ago, we set on this journey with two goals in mind, really. One, how do we bring the best of breed functionality of Azure AD B2C onto our core identity stack, Entra ID platform, and have one really platform for developers to, you know, to really use and expose, right? And then second is, how do we make this developer friendly? How do we really make this really easy to adapt? And we took a clear objective there where we said, you know what, this needs to take minutes, not hours or days, but minutes. And we actually put a goal of 5 minutes from a moment that a developer comes to our, you know, awareness developer center page, right? You know, to a free trial, to configuration, to up and running with a tenant or identity layer in your application. How do we make that happen in 5 minutes? And that's basically was and became External ID, which we're very excited to GA this past week.
That's amazing. So traditionally, we think in enterprises, right, this monolithic beast of identities, whether it be rolling back on premises with on-prem Active Directory, now Entra Identity, that you have to have this big, massive, complicated thing. You're really moving it to simplification with a simplified platform.
That's right.
What more do developers need to learn something totally different in order to start consuming it? Do we have to start transforming how we do things?
So if we do our jobs right, no, right? We have to make it super easy for developers to fall into the pit of success in a secure way. They have to start secure. They have to continue in a secure posture, and that's what we're doing, right? So there are two aspects to this. First, we created a new developer center, really around identity use cases at Entra. It's very easy to get and understand, see the use cases, see the samples, so really understand what we're capable of and what we're doing, and then get you into a free trial through a quick start wizard, right? You don't have to know anything about tokens or anything like that, right? Or the complexity. You can, few clicks and customize your authentication UI. Add social login, right? That's a common need nowadays.
Yeah.
And in minutes, we'll sort of have a customized sample to your tenant ID and everything ready to go, so you can just import into your code and get it up and running, right? So you don't have to know any of the complexities. But that's only one aspect of the simplification, right? The other thing is, let's be honest, right? Developers have their own flows, and they don't want to get out of that flow. Like, you don't want to really pull someone out of that flow and bring them in through a web wizard, right? So what we did was we worked very closely with our developer division friends, who turns up, makes the world's #1 IDE, and really said, hey, look, how can we make this really simple and easy? And that ended up us investing heavily in VS Code experiences. So we also now launched a VS Code extension. You can just enable it, download, enable it, and without leaving your VS Code flow, we can create identity for your application, just get the code in, again, up and running in your flow. We did the same thing with Visual Studio. Again, a similar setup, right, where you don't have to leave. It's all in the flow of the developers. So really exciting to really bring this to developers and really get them up and running in a secure way with the simplification.
Putting it right in where those developers are, make it super flexible. Let me ask you another question. What about how I write, the languages that I use? Right? Maybe because you talk about VS Code and you talk about Visual Studio. Is this just a .NET thing?
No. We support all your common use cases and common languages, right? You have the samples created for you. Look, we're going to do more work to even increase our number of support languages, but for 90% of the use cases you have, there 95, we have your languages covered, so you don't have to worry about any of that.
Can you talk to me just a little bit more about the developer center experience and kind of what it is that you were looking to bring to the developers? Yeah,
look, I mean, as a developer, I think the key thing for us to be really humble and insightful about as a product team is we are a means to an end, right? Like, we are a means to an end in your application. You want to come in, you want to get what you need out of us in a very simple, secure way, but you have a journey that you want to create in your application, right? So how do we, help you with that journey? So that's really top of our minds. The Developer Center is built that way, right? You come in, you get the documentation and knowledge very quickly that you need. You can see your use cases. There are different use cases you can do with our platform. You can create a consumer-facing application. You can create, a partner vendor-facing application where you have to collaborate with them much more closely, right? You may have to go do like an even more close relationship, maybe as an employee, like application, right? And either of those cases, right, you all have one SDK that you can use. It's called 𝗦𝗲𝗀, right? You can it's very simple. It's a similar user experience, and this is just beautiful thing about having one platform called Entra ID, right, to really support these things. And again, you can read all the see the sample code, read all the documentation, and then just click and do a free trial. A very, very generous free trial to check it out and see for yourself.
You want to go over to the aka.ms/dev/external-ID to go get more information. Also, we had a really cool build session on that. Go take a look at the session catalog from that. We'll be back with more coming up.